The year's 1983, and we are following up from Vision and Scarlet Witch issue 4. This is Avengers 234, Seasons of the Witch. And overall, I enjoyed this book, but as I kind of talked about in my Vision Scarlet Witch review, there's certain parts that just absolutely pissed me off, which we'll get into now. But before we talk about The Witch's Tale, this is Roger Stern writing, Alan Milgram doing the breakdowns, Joe Sinnott doing the finishing, Jim Novak doing the lettering, we're going to go with that. Christy Steele doing the colors, Mark Grunwald doing the editing, and Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. So a lot of big names on this book. And since this is supposed to essentially be a follow-up to Vision and Scarlet Witch issue 4, spoilers if you guys haven't read the book or seen the reviews, so pause this, go check them out, and come back, and you're back. Remember, Vision basically lost his arm in Vision Scarlet Witch issue 3. They went to the blue side of the moon to Adelan to have the Inhumans heal him. And here we are again. Last issue, Vision was essentially kind of put in a coma. For several years, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, and the enigmatic Vision were recognized as members of the worldwide peacekeeping force known as the Avengers. But a few short months ago, they gave up active membership in the group and set out to find out if there was room in the world for a young married couple who had just happened to be a mutant and a synthetic man. Time has passed. Today, the Scarlet Witch, flanked by teammates old and new, follows slowly along as the Vision is returned to the Avengers mansion. It is not a happy homecoming. And again, that's the way you bring somebody in. You're just like, oh shit, what happened? And every comic, when you read it, it should, be your first comic. It should bring you, I've said this thousands of times, I know, but it should bring you in and want to continue reading the next issue and go back. Like, I want to read issues 233 and then see what happens with 235, and I have no idea off the top of my head if I have either of those issues. I just by chance happened upon this one years ago, and I just haven't gotten around to read it. And then when I found out that it was a tie-in to Vision and Scarlet Witch, I was like, hey, let's jump into this. So the first half of this book is everyone rushing to make sure that Vision is going to get fixed. And you can just see the distress in Wanda's face because she does not want to lose her husband. I know Reed Richards said it was a matter of time before the Vision's body healed itself, but he looks so lifeless lying there. I shudder when I think of how he collapsed. After penetrating the energy-sapping null field which Annihilus had created in Midtown, and it turned him off as though he was just some kind of machine. And then Janet, this thing hits her hard. She and the Vision were such a strange match, but they've been so devoted to each other. Their marriage worked, which I'm not sure if it was at this point or if it's later down the road where you kind of find out that her and Hank Pym kind of got rocky. But yeah, that says a lot coming from Janet. And so, of course, all the members of the Avengers try to find ways to busy themselves. And I think at this point, She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters, is kind of new to the team. And so is Silver Fox. She goes, hey, or Star Fox, whatever his name is. Hey, Star Fox, you have any plans for tonight? Well, I considered checking out the local sites. But if you have a better offer, Spaceman, I could show you some things you won't believe. Oh, man. And just wait, it gets weirder. And here, these are the issues of Iron Man that I need to find because Cap's worried about Tony because he's basically telling Thor, I need you to check up on him because he's apparently given up his Avengers membership and his armor to someone else. And they're saying that he's kind of fallen down into his alcoholism again. So I'm wondering if this is the issue. I want to get my hands on a copy of it, but I can't remember the issue number, and the price tag just kills me. But it's the one where Tony's looking in the mirror, and he's basically janked out on alcohol. I can never remember the issue number, but I think it was right around this time period. And, yeah, want to check it out. So that kind of goes off saying the time for another adventure, which, let's see, as he does on Iron Man 172, still on sale. Well, there it is. And so we get this heaviness of what's happened to Vision. What's going on with Tony? So we finally get a moment of levity where these burglars are trying to break into this, don't remember what the hell the name of it is, but some sort of corporation. And they're like, relax, it's the weekend, no one's here. And he said, well, isn't Hawkeye supposed to be the one that guards this place? Oh, he's broken his leg. He says, don't you read the papers? That chump broke his leg the other day. We won't have to worry about any trouble from a gimp. And here comes Clint. Okay, bozos, freeze. Drop what you're carrying and get those hands high. I want to see 8 empty palms, and I want to see them now. See, I told you, it's him, Hawkeye. And this is the Hawkeye I miss. Like, now they've kind of scaled him down and given him more weird, just sort of like shield uniform, and he has his mask off. It just looks kind of boring. Here you could just see the type of hothead he was and why he was such an interesting character at the time. You'd better get glasses then, Pally, because if that bothers you, you're going to have a hard time accepting this. What do we do now, boss? Shut up. Just shut up. And so the press comes, and I guess she's like a reporter for this company. And she's like, can we interview you, please? Mine? Who, me? Why, not at all. Always happy to oblige. Just make sure you get my good side, Maury. Psst, not bad for a gimp, huh? That's the love Clint. So anyway, I'm just glad that kind of there's all this drama, and then we just get some levity right here. Avengers Mansion several hours later. One particular Avenger is rising fashionably late. Oh, good morning, world. Today could be a lot of fun, and precious one, I feel good just to talk with you. Today's another day. And so she's sitting there singing, putting on her nightgown. It is indeed She-Hulk. A day full of promises. Thanks for your use of your shower. Don't mention it. Left enough hot water for me, I hope? I should think I did. Good. Listen, when we're on our time, call me Jennifer. But of course, and you must call me Eros. It's a deal, big boy. What's on your agenda for today? So you're kind of like, oh boy. So again, moments of levity, and you're just thinking, oh my goodness, where are these two going to go? And now we see that Wanda has not left Vision's side. And Jennifer, she was always, from what I've read around this time period, she was kind of went off half-cocked. So she basically grabs Wanda and she goes, look, watching your hubby won't make him get well any faster. You're coming with me. You'll feel a lot better with breakfast in you. Now, wait just a minute. And it causes all sorts of drama between her and the She-Hulk. And I mean, this shows the power that Wanda Maximoff has. And it takes Janet finally coming to settle things down. Now, this is where the book kind of really finds its footing. Because at first you're thinking it's just kind of a cool down issue, kind of showing where plots are going to go, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But then you kind of see how this becomes the witch's tale. She finally sits down with, I think at this time she's being called Captain Marvel. This is, I hate to say it, but out of all the Captain Marvels, this is my favorite. I think Monica Rambeau, didn't she start out as Photon and then became Captain Marvel? I always get her confused. But anyway, I always love the costume design, and she's just a really down-to-earth character. And she goes, I've studied up on you and your brother, and I find you really fascinating, because she never really got to meet her in person. This is the first time meeting Wanda. And so she's like, can you tell me more about yourself? And so Wanda does. She explains how, she grew up basically in Wundagore Mountain, raised under Bova. Her mom fled because of her husband, that she saw was a monster. And so she took the matter before the creator and supreme ruler of Wundagore, the Lord High Evolutionary. It was his judgment that we should be raised among our own kind. Seeking out Django and Maria Maximoff, a childless gypsy couple, he entrusted us to their care. And so this kind of essentially explains the origin of Pietro and Wanda and how they grew up in the gypsy lifestyle, how they got the name Maximoff when their father's name is Lynchir. And boils down to, if you remember when we've been going over the early X-Men books, how Magneto saved both of them from these rioters that wanted to be a witch, and they were ready to kill her, and how they owed a debt to Magneto, and that's how they became part of the early Brotherhood, even though they hated it and fled at the first chance that they could. Now, spoilers again. So if you don't want this spoiled, skedaddle, come back later, and you're back. This goes into the parts of Vision and the Scarlet Witch issue 4. But there were also allies to be found, friends to make, and those who became more than just friends. Were it not for the Avengers, I might have never met the Vision. He was the product of a laboratory, and many thought him to be inhumanly cold, but I grew to love the warm, feeling inner man. My brother was not so understanding. Have you taken leave of your senses? The Vision is a synthezoid, a thing of plastoid flesh and artificial bone. No, I absolutely forbid this. And so I love how at the time it shows Pietro's prejudice against synthezoids, which when we read the issue, again, Vision and Scarlet Witch issue 4, shows how much that he's grown as a man. So here where we kind of get a recap of what happened, says where inhuman biogeneticists worked their own brand of magic and made my husband's arm whole again. Afterwards, Pietro, now a wiser man, invited us both into his home, where he and his wife Crystal presented their new daughter, Luna. It was a beautiful moment. It was not to last. And this is where the book chaps my hide. So, just like in the book, Magneto enters the sanctum of the Inhumans. There's a battle. And then Crystal's the one that finally is the voice of reason. She goes, "Stop it. Stop fighting, all of you. Can't you see you're scaring my child?" And Eric says, "Yes, the fighting shall cease. The master of magnetism would sooner embrace his eternal unknown than allow a moment's grief to cross the life of his granddaughter." And so in the book, the other book, there's this moment of whoa. And it ends very beautifully as Magneto essentially is asking for forgiveness because he's trying to change his ways. Everyone's tearing up, and the book ends with Magneto embracing his granddaughter. And this is where this book chaps my hide, because I like where they're building up all the different Avengers, but right here where it says, "And now, Magneto, who had always worked for the subjugation of humanity, was presenting himself as a man of peace. I didn't know what to say, but Pietro did. Get your filthy hands off my daughter. You have no claim on her. You should not have done that, my son. Don't call me son. You had your chance to be a father to us when we were in your mutant brotherhood. Instead, you used us to further your own mad schemes for power. Do you really expect us to believe that you've changed now? You must. You are of my blood. The possibility chills me to the marrow. I look at you and all I see is what I might have become. I might not have been the best of men in my life. I have reacted to the unthinking hatred of humanity with hatred of my own. It has taken me a long time, but I have finally learned not to hate. I have learned to accept." So even though I hate, what pisses me off, let me break it down here. Rather than have peace, they took this beautiful ending from the miniseries and just in a couple of panels undid it. That's what irked my Gurk. But it's comics. Comics are always melodramatic. But what I do like, that aside, this right here is what irked my ass the whole time. But even in the midst of all that, I like how when Pietro is saying how he used to have hatreds of his own, but he learned to be tolerant. Just like that little detail of him putting his hand on Vision's shoulder. Just a very great moment. But basically, the twins say, "Pietro has said it all. I need add no more." And so Magneto leaves. The Vision and I cut our stay there short and returned to New Jersey. I barely left the house for days, so chilled was I by the thought that I was Magneto's daughter. Even now I could hardly begin to explain the horror, the shame, It's as if I suddenly discovered Hitler lurking in my family tree. Part of me wishes that he is really sincere about tempering his hatred for non-mutant humans. But even if he was telling the truth, that can never excuse his past crimes. Nothing can. So again, in a sense, I can understand why they kind of undid it, because it adds to the melodrama of Wanda and Pietro trying to come to grips with this past that's now part of their life, when they thought that they were free of finally of Magneto, but now they're bound by blood. So in terms of storytelling, awesome. But I kind of wish that, I can't remember who wrote the miniseries, but I wish that, Roger Stern, I wish that they would have collaborated with the original writer and maybe found a better way to do it. But nonetheless, beautifully drawn, great build-up, weird moments with, what's his name, Star Fox and She-Hulk. And again, I want to go back and go through those issues of Iron Man where he was fighting with his alcoholism. So there's a lot that needs to be unpacked in this issue. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics, and grab this book. It's definitely an important one to have in your collection. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy Avengers Assemble bell, next subscribe. That way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.